Hi, I'm Marco.
I'm Austin, and you're listening to Ninja Wizard Unicorns, a podcast about demystifying creativity and the design world. So it's February, and it's Black History Month, and we sort of were examining sort of graphic design history, and we were thinking about how that seems to be sort of whitewashed in itself. So to examine that and to sort of do some more educating of ourselves on the topic, we took it upon ourselves to look up a few Black designers who we have found a lot of interest in and would like to share with you guys. I guess I can start if you want, Marco.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the first person I wanted to talk about was Emory Douglas. He was the graphic designer for the Black Panther Party. So specifically the Black Panther newspaper, all that artwork, all the woodcut styles, the photostat mimeographs, that was all done by him. Um, so very inspiring person there. Next person was Sylvia Harris. She was a graphic designer and design strategist. She is considered the pioneer of social impact design. Her work ranges from working on setting the standard for human-centered automated customer service design in Citibank, making the United States Census in the year 2000 a lot cleaner and more approachable, and a lot more user-friendly, as well as wayfinding for New York Presbyterian and Columbia Medical Center. So a lot of complaints were being had in, I think, 2001 and previously of all these patients that were getting lost in the hospital. So she figured out why they were getting lost, where they were getting lost, and how they could fix that, and implementing designs to sort of help fix these civic problems that occur. And I guess the last person that I wanted to go more in depth on is Cheryl D. Miller. She is very famously been written into the design history books for her print magazine work, Black Designers Missing in Action, which was her, I believe, master thesis, where she's explained why there was extremely low number of Black designers in the profession and the field. She also wrote Embracing Culture Diversity in Design in 1990 and explained how cultural diversity creates this ability to speak to these specific ethnic groups that they have more familiarity with. Specifically, how there is a lack of education and a lack of outreach, how design actually in some ways is something that you fall into. And so if you don't have enough role models, you don't have these people of color leading and suggesting that you get into it, you end up not really having a lot of people fall into design. And what I think is really interesting about her perspective about design is that there's this sort of aesthetic that sort of is created when you only think about design from one specific group of people. We think of like this new house Swiss wave of like modern aesthetic. There's sort of like this feeling that it always needs to be in this grid, have a lot of white space, et cetera, et cetera. But if we look at design and how it can serve people and how it can be very expressive if we understand those voices and these diverse views, it can be more powerful. And I think we see that a lot in the way that she designed. I think she's definitely the person that I wanted to focus on because of how she sort of examined the lack of Black designers, sort of talked about it and brought this conversation about, and has done a lot of work to create that sort of diversity and sort of champion this idea that the diversity should be really respected and that multiple viewpoints can just create stronger design. It's not always about good weighted design. I feel like if you think about how closed-minded that word statement can become, if you really look more for why is something working, you will eventually make something good, rather than always thinking there's only a correct style and a correct way to do that. So those are the three that I found most interesting.
Now I'm going to highlight a couple of designers, especially one who I found very influential. Emmett Bain, a graphic designer who worked in advertising during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. In 1958, his Playboy Jazz All-Star album art was named Billboard Magazine Album Cover of the Week. His design studio, McBain Associates, designed over 75 jazz albums. And in the 60s, Black consumers were largely ignored by brand name manufacturers in the mainstream advertising industry. He created a huge impact of African American community through his work, designed impactful ads, especially during the civil rights era, that highlighted themes of African American community and beauty. Bringing a positive image of African Americans to the mainstream, he used images of everyday people in ads. The community can imagine themselves using such products because now there was someone who resembled their culture advertising towards them. The Marlboro campaign was a huge success and went on to win Coca-Cola and McDonald's as clients, following the same strategy, using everyday people in ads. I find Emmett McMahon very influential because he was one of the first to show the beauty of African Americans in advertising. Now, there's one other last person I want to highlight as well. George Odin. George Odin made history as he became the first African American to design a commemorative postage stamp for the U.S. Post Office. Odin created this 5-cent stamp to commemorate their emancipation on its 100th anniversary.
Thanks, Marco. I just really think that that was really important for us to do that little exercise, really look at sort of diversity. I remember there was this stat, something about 594 designers, 62 of them women, 80 of them are people of color, and 3 of them were Black. So I think it's very important that we, as ourselves as designers, think about Black history and remember that it's American history.
All right, guys, thank you for listening and tuning in. Till next time.
Marco, don't forget, there's links down below about all the resources that we use. There are a lot more designers than the ones that we looked at and shared with you today. And I guess, yeah, till next time.